Feisty, fearless, and fair. She's an Emmy-winning journalist from the White House to war zones, telling all sides of the story. This is the Rita Cosby Show.
Tonight on the Rita Cosby Show at midnight Eastern time, we are talking not that far away tonight. Funding is going to be running out for the Department of Homeland Security, and that means a partial government shutdown will take effect. It will be the second Democratic shutdown that we've seen of very recent history, and it's because the Democrats don't want to fund the Department of Homeland Security. They want to have all these different changes to ICE, such as creating a ban en masse on ICE agents who are being doxxed along with their families. They want to make sure they have signed judicial warrants, a whole bunch of things that are going to make their jobs even more difficult. And the Republicans are saying this is ridiculous. The reality is ICE is also already funded for quite some time. So this is all political theater by the Democrats. It essentially will not affect ICE, but what it will do, guess what, is it's going to hurt customs, a whole bunch of different things. If you look at it, essentially, it will affect the Coast Guard. It'll affect FEMA. It could affect our flying because it could affect the TSA all over again. Remember when the flights were messed up all over the place? Well, this could be part two all over again, just because they don't want to fund immigration and customs enforcement, or as I just said, it's all theatrics. They want to use it for some campaign ad because it is the midterm election year. But it could be a mess again this weekend if you're traveling, or at least in a few days if this doesn't get solved. Because guess what's happening at the same time? There's the Munich Security Conference, guys, that's taking place in Munich, Germany. AOC is over there. A whole bunch of other members of Congress on both sides are over there. But it doesn't mean that they're coming back anytime soon. So that means this could drag on for at least a few days. If not longer, because technically Congress is out of session for at least another week. So this could get bumpy. Thank you, Democratic Party, for not agreeing to fund federal law enforcement and now creating what is truly going to be at least a little bit of a mess, and certainly a big mess for those great employees of FEMA, TSA, and the Coast Guard who certainly deserve to get paid. The last thing you want is their families to worry, how are they going to be able to pay for certain bills when they're doing difficult jobs already as it is. Your reaction, guys, that now we are headed into another partial government shutdown in literally about an hour and a half or so, about a little less than 2 hours, but it is not that far away. Also, some other big news tonight and some breaking news on the Nancy Guthrie case.
Breaking news.
And in just the last few hours, some other big developments. We're being told that the bomb squad and SWAT team and also the mobile command center from Pima County, Arizona, are on the move. That they are on the scene of what could be a big break in this case. We don't know. Remember, they thought that was happening the other day, and then they got the guy Carlos in Rio Rico, Arizona, which was only about, 9-10 miles from the southern border. But then they detained him, they questioned him, and then they released him. But tonight we are hearing that the bomb squad, the SWAT team, and the mobile command center, for the second time since the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, is on the move again in this case. So could that mean potentially that maybe there is a big break in this case? Boy, would that be enormous. And joining us now to talk about all of this and so much more is Betsy Brantner Smith. She is a spokesperson with the National Police Association, also a former hostage negotiator trained by the FBI and also from Tucson and calling us from there. Betsy, I'm sure you know the news much better than I do. You're right there, my friend. But the latest we're hearing is that this big group that went out the other day and ended up detaining somebody, even though they released him, is out again, and they've been out for a few hours. Do you know what might be underway right now?
Well, Rita, I've been down at the sheriff's department for about the last 4 hours, and we did see, the bomb squad go out, the SWAT team go out. Some of the SWAT team came back and then went out again. And basically, when we're talking to the deputies in the parking lot here, most days off have been canceled, and everybody has been called back to work. So we do feel like we're seeing some activity here. And the area where you are hearing that the command post is about 3 miles from my house. I'm actually down at the sheriff's department, but this is in a more of a suburban area, and so we're just waiting to hear and see what is happening. But we are hearing that there has been at least one detention, not arrest, but detention. And the sheriff alluded to that today when he was talking to several of the Fox News anchors here at the sheriff's department, that there were more detentions to come. So we're really hopeful that there might be some sort of conclusion, frankly, tonight or overnight.
Wow. Betsy, this is a biggie if indeed that's the case. So explain to us too. First, let's go through the area where they're at. And my understanding is they've been gone for several hours, right? So you know that area. Again, you said it's 3 miles from your home. Tell us about the area they're looking, and where is that in relation to Nancy Guthrie's house?
So this is probably, I would say, 12 miles or so from Nancy Guthrie's home. It's up on the northwest side, which is a bit of a more suburban, is what I would call it, area. Again, girl from Chicago, so I'm going to call it a suburban area. But, kind of bedroom communities, things like that. And they have been in this area for several hours, and we haven't heard, again, who they're detaining or what, but we are hearing that they're out on an operation, and I have to tell everybody right now, because it's been 80 degrees and sunny and beautiful. It's pouring rain here in Tucson, Arizona, which is extremely rare for this time of year. It's cold, it's wet, it's damp, it's dark. So it's a little more difficult weather than we're used to dealing with. And that was a concern because in the rain, things really deteriorate. But our Pima County Sheriff's Department, the deputies, the patrol deputies are out working hard on a Friday night, but, some of our specialty units are tied up in the northwest side of the city, in the suburbs.
And explain also, you're hearing that one person has been detained. Obviously, that's what happened the other night with that guy, Carlos, as you and I were talking, I remember, with all our great listeners around the country, Betsy, and that was in Rio Rico. Explain sort of what the level of, requires from sort of a legal and investigative standpoint to detain somebody. But the fact, you don't just kind of pull somebody off the street. And as we learned in the Carlos case, that's the guy, of course, from Rio Rico, that he was a delivery guy. They believe he had been in the area, maybe have delivered a package right around the area of the house. He also, fits some of the description things, and maybe some cell towers, connections to with his cell phone in the area, all of those things. It's not like you can just kind of randomly start pulling people off the street. But it's a lower standard than arrest, obviously. But give us the sense of what maybe is causing somebody else to be detained.
Right. So you have to have circumstances that you can articulate. And so you have to be able to say, basically, you just did it. You should have been a lawyer, Rita.
Thank you. Do you know what? A lot of people think I am, Betsy. Isn't that funny? Know, right? I've done so many crime cases with you through the years, my friend.
So you have to be able to articulate, here is why we went to this house. Here is why we are detaining this person. And you have to be able to lay out not enough to arrest them, but enough to detain them for, a kind of an unspecified amount of time. And what that does is it gives investigators time to, talk to them. And were you here at this time? Did you go to this house? Did you do this? I think it is interesting that the bomb squad is involved in this. I find that kind of unusual. And the fact that the mobile command post went out, that means they need assets, right? Resources. They need to be able to communicate. And, it really indicates that we are moving forward on this situation. And again, you haven't heard a lot from the Guthrie family, for a couple of days. And so it makes me wonder, has the Sheriff's Department or the FBI or both been communicating with the Guthrie family, letting them know what might be coming? Things like that. It's fascinating. I'm hoping that we'll have something tonight, ideally before you go off the air.
Wow. That is a biggie, Betsy. Wow. And earlier today, Betsy, you hit it on the head. The president has had so much attention today. Here he is at the White House. I think the first question was about Iran, and then the next 10 were about Nancy Guthrie. The whole world has been watching this. The president is clearly, like you said, engaged, talking to the Guthrie family, as is the FBI. One of the things I found really interesting, Betsy, too, is a couple days ago, the president made a comment and said, I think there could be some big developments soon. And then 24 hours later, all that surveillance video, the digitized version of it came out, which was, a game changer, I think, in this case. The guy trying to pull the door cam video off, the doorbell camera off. And then today, Betsy, President Trump, and I've known him a long time, I always listen to his words. He said, I think we're making some progress. I think progress is being made. And then he also was asked about cartels. This was interesting. And he said, I can't say that yet. It's a little bit early. Whether somebody or not, is doing it, whether it's someone who knows the tricks very well or if it's amateurs. So sounds like he was leaving some doors open, but he didn't even rule out something very sophisticated. Your thoughts on all that?
Well, here's the thing, and this is something that we've been talking about to some of the media around here. Again, Nogales, Arizona, and Nogales, Mexico, they're about 69 miles straight south of here. These are sort of twin cities where the smaller part of Nogales is in Arizona. The larger part of it, about 300,000 people, is on the Mexico side. This is a place where people from the United States go back and forth all the time, and people from Mexico go back and forth all the time. There are, footbridges and all that. And we all know here in Pima County that the cartels operate in this area. Now, again, because the border has been shut, it's been recontrolled, if you will, the cartels have had a harder time operating here. But, the cartels have been operating here, Rita, for the last 30 years. And so if you wanted to, let's say, engage somebody who was a cartel member or had worked for the cartels or whatever, it would not be a difficult thing to do. So I really think that we've kind of ignored the potential for international, the international aspect, if you will, and that may be what he was talking about.
And Betsy, we literally have 1 minute left, literally. But real quick, about the stuff in the house. It sounds like they found some DNA in the house. What do you know about that?
So DNA was found in the house, but not a glove. The sheriff said that was not it. But there is DNA that is non-familial, and unrelated to anyone allegedly who worked for Nancy Guthrie and unrelated to Nancy Guthrie. And it was in the house. So that's very unusual.
Yeah, that's very unusual. Betsy, will you do me a favor? Will you give us an update as soon as you get it? Because it sounds like the fact, like you said, the bomb squad's there, the mobile command post, the SWAT team going back and forth. We could see some big action, and let's pray there's a break tonight. But would you call us as soon as you hear something?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Betsy Brantner. We love you. Thank you very much.
Rita.
Thank you very much. Betsy Brantner Smith with the National Police Association right there on the ground in Tucson. And everybody, I'll take your calls when we come back on another busy news night here on The Rita Cosby Show.
It's The Rita Cosby Show. Rita Cosby is on.
And let's go to your calls, guys. 1-800-848-9222. When you're listening to the Rita Cosby Show on another very busy news night, a partial government shutdown, about an hour and a half away, unbelievably, yet again. And also, there could be a big break in the Nancy Guthrie case, and that could come within minutes. Let's go to Rose in Long Island on line 4. Rose, your thoughts tonight?
Hi, how you doing? I just heard on YouTube and saw that the police found a body of an elderly woman in a field. I think they said Marana, Arizona. And the person was wearing clothes similar to the clothes that her mom was wearing when she disappeared.
Well, and Rose, by the way, Rose, and I'm not sure which YouTube. There was a report sort of earlier that something like that happened, but it turned out to be unrelated, is what I understand. So we're not sure at this point. Maybe you're looking at something else, but I think Betsy certainly would have known because she's out there. But the latest is that it appeared to be unrelated. There's a lot of stuff out there. And sadly, I hate to say it, there's been, a number of other crimes in that area too as well. So I do not at this point believe that that's related, at least as far as any sort of official confirmation. And listen, we're just praying she comes back. I mean, the fact I can't believe, Rose, it's been 2 weeks. Think about that. Tomorrow will be 2 weeks since she disappeared. And you've got the full force, of course, of not just the local police there, but you've got the FBI. You've got the President of the United States saying whatever you need. You've got the whole country looking for anybody tied to this case or any clue. So I am still holding out hope and praying that Nancy Guthrie is alive.
It's the Rita Cosby Show. It's the Rita Cosby Show.
And this Back the Blue segment coming from Buchanan, West Virginia, where a state police trooper helped rescue an elderly woman and assisted a 10-month-old infant during a house fire. The trooper, C.J. Elmore, was the first law enforcement officer to arrive on the scene after responding to a reported commercial structure fire. And when he got there, he saw smoke coming from a nearby residence. So he ran up and he heard a male individual shout out, "My baby girl," as the man ran into the smoke-filled home. The trooper then immediately began moving to the residence, quickly ran through the smoke to the back porch. He located an elderly woman, helped her get out, and then he realized that the 10-month-old infant who had been removed from the home was in dire need of medical attention. He then rushed that infant to emergency medical services. Thankfully, all 8 occupants in that residence, which quickly became engulfed in flames, well, all the residents were safely evacuated without major injury, thanks to the great work of the fire department and the men and women in blue. And bravo to them and all the great work they do every day to protect all of us. So much happening tonight. Wait till you hear some of the crazy comments coming from Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, who met with Zoran Mondani of New York this week. Now, Mondani and Frey seem like they're 2 peas in a pod. And we also heard from Frey essentially saying that I guess ICE is going to have to pay for the damage they caused. Are you kidding me? ICE got rid of 4,000 violent criminals off the streets of Minneapolis. 4,000 of them were taken off, according to ICE. And yet, and they're leaving because they say, okay, our job is pretty much done. But I guess that's not good enough for Jacob Frey. We're going to get to his comments in a moment. Also, you just heard from Betsy Brantner Smith, and you heard her say that this may be a big breaking news night in the Nancy Guthrie case. Clearly seems like there is a lot that is happening right now. And that is because the bomb squad's out, the SWAT team's out, the mobile command center. You don't just move all those assets if you don't think you might be hot on the trail of something. And there is a report, as you heard from Betsy, that somebody has been detained. Again, it doesn't mean they're arrested, but usually you have to have some sort of, pretty significant evidence to say they were in the area, they're tied to the area, they were there at the time. We have a right to question them to see if they were a part of it or if they saw something unusual. All of those things could provide a reason for detention and a reason for a search of their property, whether it's a vehicle or a home or whatever. We saw it the other night with the Carlos guy who, remember, was detained and then released. They just said they did not have enough to hold him. Not necessarily that he's cleared. In fact, they're saying tonight, the sheriff, that nobody has been cleared, which was an interesting phrasing of turn. Here is also Sheriff Chris Nanos. This is the guy from Pima County in Arizona. And there was another big break today where he revealed in an interview with Fox that he essentially said there was some significant DNA that was found in the house. Now, they're saying there was no glove found in the house. There was a glove found several miles away, about 2 miles away from Nancy Guthrie's house. But that inside the house, they found what they're calling non-familial DNA. In other words, it's not Nancy Guthrie's, it's not her family's. It's also not people who kind of hang around at the house, like a cleaning person or maybe a home health care aide, because remember, Nancy Guthrie's 84 and needed a lot of care for her health. Maybe the gardener. That's why they were probably collecting all of their DNAs the other day. Remember, we heard reports a couple days ago that they were doing that. But here is Sheriff Chris Nanos talking about the DNA that was found in the house that is now being checked to see whose DNA was it. Maybe put it in a data bank, see if it's somebody with a criminal history. Here it is.
You've got DNA, so that's of use. Now we have to go through and try to eliminate people or make people. We're so hopeful that we're getting closer. We just believe that.
And let's pray that that's the case. Betsy Brantner Smith even said, hey, Rita, we might even have something later on in your show tonight. So everybody buckle up. This could be a big night. Here is also TMZ, because remember, they have been getting these letters. They were the first ones to get what was a ransom letter. We're not sure if it's good or not, if it's legitimate or not. Even the FBI isn't even sure. But they apparently got a third message today. Listen to this.
TMZ has obtained a third email from the man who claims he knows the identity and the location of Nancy Guthrie's kidnapper, and he has now upped his demand. We know it is the same person who wrote the other two notes because the Bitcoin address is identical. So he says that he is going through TMZ because he does not trust law enforcement. He's essentially saying, you don't trust me and I don't trust you. What he is suggesting is by the FBI upping the reward to $100,000. It was designed to discredit him. He says, quote, to discredit me. So what he is saying is he now wants the following. He wants one fraction of a Bitcoin worth $50,000. And for that, he says he will give up the name and location of the kidnapper. He says he will not cash that until the kidnapper is actually arrested, and then he expects the second Bitcoin fraction, another 50,000. So he wants the $100,000 reward, he says, but he wants it in this form and not simply coming forward to authorities. He has a variety of reasons on why he doesn't want to come forward to authorities, one of which is interesting. He says it's because that it could compromise his possible freedom. Now, we don't know what that means. Does that mean that he is peripherally associated with this kidnapper? He does not explain what that means, but he says it in this email. Now, there's something really important here, that he says that when he gets the initial payment, and this is a quote, he will give up, quote, the name of the main individual. The main individual. So clearly, he is suggesting, and he did insinuate this before, but he is saying it squarely here. The main individual, that means if this is legit, he has accomplices. So he does refer to the current state of Nancy Guthrie. We are not going to get into what that is. We have forwarded this on to the FBI. They asked for it, and we gave it to them. We received this email just before noon Pacific time, Friday, today. So, again, the third email, he says this time, this is it, that it's his final time to approach anybody. The third time is it. Now, remember, he said that last time, too, but he says he's coming forward now because of the increase in the ransom reward. And we will see. The authorities are looking at this, I guess, to determine if it's legitimate. We have checked this Bitcoin address, and so far, no deposit has been made.
Wow, that is so interesting. Again, we don't know if it's accurate or not. But you just heard Harvey Levin saying in this third sort of email that they've gotten, he will give up the name of the main individual, this person says. Again, we don't know if it's accurate, but he is clearly passing on all leads to the FBI, and it may be accurate. Now, what's interesting is there in Harvey's report that we're just hearing about, because he just got it a few hours ago, that the individual is claiming, I'll give up the main individual. Meaning there's multiple, as you heard Harvey emphasize. And this is fascinating because earlier today, President Trump, who has been glued on this case, he's been obviously following a lot. It's a very high profile case. He also knows Savannah Guthrie. He's had conversations with her. The whole country, the whole world wants to see Nancy Guthrie return. President Trump didn't rule out that it might even be cartel related. He kind of left it open. Listen to this. This is what he said earlier today. He was asked on the White House lawn. I think he was leaving for Fort Bragg at the time. And this is what he had to say when he was asked about who might be involved in the Nancy Guthrie case.
Do you think the cartels are at all involved in Nancy Guthrie's case or another nation state potentially?
You can't say that yet. It's a little bit early, but it's somebody either knew what they were doing very well or they were rank amateurs. Either way, it's not a good situation.
You know, it's amazing about President Trump. He tells it like it is. I think if President Trump knew for sure at that moment who it was, he would say, oh, I think it's more leaning towards this. Or if somebody said, is it cartel? And it wasn't, like that they totally ruled it out, you know, without any tentacles to cartels or anything like that, he would say, no, I don't think so. If he had evidence that it was out. So he's always, a straight shooter. To his credit, he always answers so many different media questions, whether he loves or hates the media organization that's asking the question, he's approachable. He's not afraid to answer, and he always answers pretty straight ahead. I give him so much credit. And there he kind of left the door open, at least as of a few hours ago. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Lamar in Fayetteville, North Carolina, line 4. Go ahead, Lamar.
How y'all doing, Miss Rita? I just want to let you know that we took time, myself and my outfit, to call you the other night. We took time out from looking for a couple of our skips down here, but we couldn't get through. But the night wasn't a total failure because right after we got hung up with you all, we ran into a couple of our skips right down there on Hay Street, coming out of those Mama Son pleasure venues. But anyhow, I digress. Last time we talked, I made good on my pledge to try to contact some of my people down on the frontera, and I did speak with one of the comandantes who's with the Federal de Camino. That's the police, the federal police agency of Mexico that surveils and controls all major points of entry in and out of the northern territories, the states of Mexico. And he said something that, I must confess, surprised even myself, someone who is in the fugitive apprehension profession, something I should have known but was unaware of. He told me, and I quote, and you'll appreciate this, Miss Cosby, because you're all ready to be a member of the new Bugs Bunny, or I should say Bad Bunny era in our country where you got to speak Spanish. The comandante told me, he said, vaquero, ni son raza, ni son de banda. The translation there is, raza means, they refer to themselves as raza. He said, they're not Mexicans, the people behind this, and they're not banda. He said, son de clica y son mareros. The difference between a pandillero and a marero is a pandillero is a member of a mainstream organization, crime organization like Jalisco Nuevo Generación or Cartel de Sinaloa. A marero is just a career criminal, and a clica is a small criminal group, usually of 4 to 8 people, usually men, but that's even changed because now they're co-ed too. They got women involved in these clicas, and he said something that I was unaware of. He said, no son de banda, son clica, y son chilenos. And when he said chilenos, that they're from Chile, the Chileans, I almost fell off the seat. And I
Wait. That's interesting. Lamar, porque yo puedo hablar español. I can speak Spanish. So let's go through this real quick here. Where did he get Chilenos from? That's interesting.
Well, he said Chilenos, and when he said that, of course, my retort was, well, ¿por qué mi comandante? ¿Por qué dices Chilenos? And he said to me, ¿no sabes que hay clicas chilenos allá en su país que se especializan en home invasion?
Yep. And by the way, you got to speak Spanish. I understand it that there are Chileans who are involved in home invasions in that area, but speak in English for the rest of our audience, Lamar.
Oh, yes, ma'am. He pointed out to me in no uncertain terms. He kind of embarrassed me when he said it, to the language he used. He said, don't you know there are Chilean cliques in your country right now that specialize in home invasions? He pointed out to me that they've been having trouble with them in Durango and some of the other northern states where they're targeting haciendas. A hacienda in Mexico is a very large ranch-style house, and they're somewhat opulent as well. They've been the target of these Chilenos, and that really surprised me. And they're also known as agrupaciones ilícitas, small groups who are dedicated to this type of criminal activity. But in closing, Ms. Cosby, I'm just going to say something. I don't want to seem pessimistic, but I wouldn't put too much hope in any breakthrough coming from the DNA that was retrieved by the CSU team down at the crime scene, because quite frankly, Ms. Cosby, I've been in this apprehension profession for some time, and I don't care if you send that DNA to Tallahassee or Quantico, you're not going to have anything, because none of these people who are gotaways in our country, millions of gotaways, criminal gotaways in our country, are in any of our CONUS continental United States databases, and that's to include the NCIC. So what we're doing right now, what law enforcement is charged with right now, is trying to find phantoms in our country that have been released by the prior administration. And on top of all that, adding insult to injury, the local county mounties out there in Pima County, who I'm familiar with, particularly this high sheriff, as we say down here in Dixie, are not figures to inspire confidence. in my opinion, the best thing they could do right now is turn this whole case over to the Texas Rangers, who are the preeminent law enforcement agency in dealing with these cross-border operations.
And hang on, Lamar. Lamar, hold on. You got some great points in there. Let me just ask you one thing. You brought up the Chilenos, and you may have even heard that I even mentioned the fact, like, obviously with the DNA cases, I'm not involved in fugitive apprehensions like you, but I've covered many, many crime cases and talked with many people who are responsible over the years in very pivotal roles, and obviously top of the law enforcement and all that stuff, folks, too, as well. But you're right about the database. Does he, I guess my question is he's clearly surmising that it may be Chilenos because it's these group of individuals. He did not have any firsthand knowledge or anything. He just surmises that there's been these groups of Chilenos who have been doing this in that area. Is that right? I just want to make sure I understood you.
Oh, that's 100% right. And what we have to understand, Ms. Cosby, this comandante, he's not with the Policía Judicial or la Policía Estatal. He's with the Federal de Camino. This is the federal police agency that has an overview of all surveillance of the northern territories, all points of entry. They know what is going on in that border and what's going on in proximity to that border on both sides.
That's, by the way, Lamar, that's a great point, because you're right. Nobody knows better than those who are in the area. And that may be why what you just said. And that's an interesting explanation, that there's been this group of these individuals. Like you said, also that shows some professionalism, some organization, and yet not as maybe high end or sophisticated as a cartel or something like that per se, or a much more sort of huge professional organization. But still, if they specialize in these things, they have some training as opposed to just somebody trying it off the street or whatever. So that's an interesting thing. That could actually, he may be spot on. And listen, I hope obviously local authorities and the FBI, because don't forget, I know you bring up the Texas Rangers, but the FBI is involved. And the FBI is also tremendous. No doubt. 100%. Lamar, very interesting. Muchas gracias por todo. And we'll take your calls, everybody, after the break.
It's the Rita Cosby Show. This is the Rita Cosby Show.
And we are back here on the Rita Cosby Show. We'll continue talking about the Nancy Grace case, rather the Nancy Guthrie case. You can tell I've been talking to Nancy Grace and a whole bunch of other folks through this. In addition to that, as I mentioned, we're about an hour away from a partial government shutdown. So what does that mean? And also, can you believe it today? We're continuing to look like every single Democrat, essentially, in the Senate. I mean, we'll find out where it goes. But most of them still don't want to vote for voter ID. That's an incredible thing. Voter ID requirement to show, citizenship when you register, and show a photo ID when you go to vote. So we can all feel good about the process. Why is it a mystery? It should not be a mystery in any shape or form. And as I mentioned also, in Minneapolis, you got Mayor Jacob Fry and you got Tim Walz blaming ICE for what they say is the downfall of their city. And then I heard Jacob Fry today say the fear is gone. I'm like, oh, what is he talking about? He was referring to ICE. So wait a minute. They were all for open borders. They weren't turning over criminals to the feds. And now they're blaming ICE for the mess that they created. How does that make any sense?
It's the Rita Cosby Show.